The Ukrainian army says its forces have stopped Russia from advancing further into the northeastern Kharkiv region and is now carrying out counterattacks. However, the army says Moscow is intensifying its assault on other parts of the front. Russia made its biggest territorial advances in 18 months of war with its latest assault on Kharkiv region. Thousands of Moscow's troops stormed the border since May 10th, according to Russian sources. Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready to halt the war in Ukraine with a negotiated ceasefire that recognizes the current battlefield lines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the region's capital on Friday to discuss the battle for Vovchansk, a town that sits fewer than 5 kilometers from the border. The Ukrainian army says that despite Moscow's initial success, the situation is now under control in the region and its counter-offensive actions are underway.
As for the Kharkiv direction, in this direction you already know that since May 10, the enemy has been conducting an offensive with the aim of creating a buffer zone in the Kharkiv region. Today, the situation there is stable and under control. The enemy has been stopped. Fire damage is inflicted on them, and offensive assault actions are planned and carried out by the defense forces in order to restore the lost position.
The Ukrainian commander-in-chief says Russia has suffered very high losses in assault units. However, he warned that the situation was turbulent on the Eastern Front, where Russia says its forces have made a string of gains in the past 2 weeks. The commander-in-chief says fighting near the eastern towns of Chasiv Yar and Kharkiv has been particularly intense. Russia said it has made inroads near the city of Bakhmut in Ukraine's eastern region of Donetsk. Just 3 days earlier, it claimed to have seized a key village in the region. Moscow says it has launched the offensive in Ukraine's northeast to create a buffer zone along the border to prevent further Ukrainian attacks on its region. Meanwhile, finance ministers and officials from the group of 7 opened a 2-day meeting. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is pushing at the meeting for more ambitious options to unlock money from some $260 billion in Russian central bank reserves frozen in Europe and the U.S. The ministers are discussing how to use those frozen Russian assets. Meanwhile, U.S. Congress has passed legislation allowing the White House to seize the roughly $5 billion in Russian assets located in the U.S. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Take a look.
The United States is sending $275 million in military aid to Ukraine to counter Russia's assault against Kharkiv. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the aid package on Friday, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his gratitude, saying that the aid is vital as Russia intensifies its attacks not only in Kharkiv but also Ukraine as a whole. The package aims to strengthen Ukrainian forces as they already face weapon shortfalls, and this is the 5th assistance package that has been sent to Ukraine since funding was approved on Capitol Hill, and the U.S. says that the aid is to support Ukraine in its defense. Meanwhile, it's been reported that the Biden administration is challenging reports by the British that China is sending lethal aid to Russia in its fight against Ukraine. Again, the United States made clear that this military aid that it is sending to Ukraine is for defensive purposes and is not intended to be used inside a Russian territory. That is a topic that has been up for debate here in the United States on Capitol Hill. We'll have to see how this arrangement ultimately pans out. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.